Tomorrow, Julian's voice dropped, but still carried beyond the door. You will have nothing. No company. No name. Evelyn let out a short, sharp laugh, brittle as glass. And he won't even understand why. Their voices slipped through the half-closed walnut door at the end of the 45th floor corridor, like two blades slicing the silence. Maya froze, the strap of her faded backpack sliding off her shoulder. The scent of champagne and perfume drifted out, mingling with the soft chime of glasses. She pressed her back against the wall, breathing fast. Through the crack, Julian Thorne leaned in his charcoal suit, the amber light catching on the glass of wine in his hand. Opposite him, Evelyn Reed reclined slightly, her blonde hair pinned neatly, her smile poised, but her eyes cold as ice. "It's all ready," Evelyn said, swirling her glass. "All you need to do is watch." Maya's grip on the backpack strap tightened until her knuckles whitened. Her grandmother Josephine, who had raised her, had spoken of Mr. Sterling with reverence so many times. And now, even without hearing the name, Maya knew exactly who they meant. Julian leaned closer, his voice dropping lower still. "Before you leave, make sure to take that file. Don't let him touch it again." "Don't worry," Evelyn replied, her lips curling. "I'll have it tonight. His car's in the private garage, isn't it?" Their glasses met with a soft clink, a sound that echoed down the corridor like the turning of a lock. Maya stepped back just as Evelyn rose and opened the door. The sound of heels struck the thick carpet in a steady rhythm. Holding her breath, Maya waited until the figure disappeared, then darted toward the far end of the hall, toward the steel service elevator door hidden behind the staff-only sign. Her grandmother had once shown her this way on days she brought lunch. The door opened into an empty chamber. Maya pressed B3, private garage. The doors slid shut, the hum of the motor deep and steady, the numbers falling fast. Her heart pounded, each beat hammering against her ribs. B3. The doors parted. Harsh white light flooded in. The private garage gleamed so clean the LED lights mirrored off the ceiling like a giant pane of glass. The whir of vents droned steadily, the scent of epoxy paint mingling with the chill of steel. In the corner rested a black Maybach S-Class. Evelyn was already there. A card swipe beeped, the red light blinked and turned green. The door lock clicked, the sound loud in the hollow space. The trunk sprang open. Evelyn lifted out a sleek black leather file, then replaced it with another, thicker one, the edges slightly frayed as if hastily handled. Her movements were sharp, precise, without a wasted second. Maya crouched behind a concrete pillar, heart racing. She caught sight of the rear door, left ajar. As Evelyn turned to adjust her bag, Maya dashed forward. The door slid soundlessly. She slipped inside, pulling it shut, curling into the narrow gap between seat and door. The smell of Napa leather and polished walnut overwhelmed her, suffocating in its luxury. The trunk thumped closed behind. Evelyn's heels faded, step by step, until silence swallowed the garage. Inside the car, only Maya's ragged breath remained. Minutes later, the groan of the automatic garage door opening echoed. Footsteps followed, slower, heavier, deliberate, utterly unlike Evelyn's. Through the reflection in the mirror, Arthur Sterling came into view. The Tom Ford suit hugged his broad frame, tie knotted neatly. White light carved shadows beneath his eyes. A smart key rested in his palm, his gesture of unlocking the door as practiced as breathing. The driver's door swung open. Arthur slid in, every motion ingrained from repetition. His hand reached back toward the central lock. "They call you a walking ghost." Maya's voice rose from the back seat, small but clear, a relic who only signs whatever paper is placed before him. Arthur's hand froze midair. He twisted, his gaze sharp and searching the cabin. She sat there, a girl in a frayed dress, hair tousled, eyes wide and dark yet unflinching. In that perfect interior, she was a crack across the glass. "Who are you? How did you get in here?" His voice was low, steady, yet carried the weight of a man accustomed to control. "Julian Thorne and his blonde woman, Evelyn," Maya said, trembling but clear. "They're up on the 45th floor. drinking your champagne. They laughed and said, tomorrow you'll have nothing. Arthur didn't answer at once. Each word landed like a hammer on the granite wall he'd built over 2 decades. He searched the girl's eyes for a lie and found only resolve far older than her years. How did you get in here? Evelyn, unlocked the car for a few seconds. I slipped in because my grandmother said you were a good man. A thick silence settled. Arthur slowly pulled the door shut. The thump reverberated through the cabin, heavy as a verdict. He didn't start the engine. In the cold white light of the garage, a single thought struck him. If this is true, then I am sitting inside a trap already locked from within. Arthur sat motionless for a few seconds in the car, listening to the new rhythm of his heart. Not everyone would dare sneak into a CEO's vehicle, least of all a child. But there was no trace of fabrication in Maya's eyes, only urgency. He started the engine. The Maybach slipped out of the basement, leaving behind the cold white lights. Outside, the city smelled damp with rain, street lamps stretching across the asphalt like threads of gold. Arthur turned into a quiet corner and stopped before a 24/7 cafe, its neon open sign flickering. The bell chimed. The warm scent of roasted coffee and bacon filled the air. A lazy jazz tune drifted from an old radio. Arthur chose the last table, back to the wall. Maya sat opposite, clutching her backpack strap like it held a secret. He ordered a tall stack of pancakes with maple syrup and hot chocolate for her, black coffee for himself. They ate in deliberate silence. Butter melted, syrup ran in streaks. When Arthur set down his cup, the sound was sharp against the wood. You know what they're planning, he said plainly. But why risk telling me? Maya glanced at the plate, then lifted her eyes. My grandmother, Josephine, worked cleaning at Sterling for 10 years. She was proud of it. She said you built something to be proud of. Arthur paused. In the haze of memory, he saw an older woman pausing her glass cleaning, bowing her head slightly as he walked by one long-ago morning. He had only nodded and kept going. A gesture so small no one remembered, not even him, until now. 6 months ago, Maya continued, Miss Evelyn accused her of stealing office supplies. She was fired, too old to find another job. 2 months later, her heart stopped. She swallowed. I think sadness killed her. Arthur didn't look at her. He stared into his coffee, bubbles breaking across the surface like a tiny rainstorm. In his mind, images rearranged themselves. Hurried signatures, Evelyn's scheduled meetings, Julian's handled encounters, standardized smiles. He understood microcircuits down to nanoseconds, but he had closed his eyes to the moral circuitry. The phone buzzed. Julian Thorne. Sleep well, brother. Tomorrow will be the greatest day of our careers. Evelyn Reed. Everything's ready, sir. Just trust me like always. Arthur didn't reply. Maya's gaze held his, her voice small but clear. You built this company, so you can fire them, right? The words fired at them hit the table like rivets. No metaphor, no pretense. A child's bluntness strikes the center. Power is action, not nostalgia. Arthur leaned back, staring at the ceiling light. He remembered the cheap rental room in the beginning, the first payroll, and the joy of young people hugging and laughing. He remembered the day Julian arrived, sharp as a freshly honed blade. The day Evelyn came, arranging every drawer of his life. He remembered trusting, then trusting more, then trusting too much. Do you think I can do it? He asked. Maya nodded without hesitation. You built it. And if I'm wrong, then you fix it. Her answer was as light as a spoon set down, yet left warmth behind. Outside, a taxi splashed water onto the curb, streetlights scattering into golden shards on the glass. The waiter refilled their syrup without asking. Simple kindness passing by like a reminder. Arthur opened his contacts. David Chun. 2 rings. David. A pause. I need a ghost in the machine. Right now. Silence brief. Then the scrape of a wooden chair on the other end. Julian won't like it. That's why I'm calling you, Arthur said, looking at Maya. And David, this is for Josephine. 40 minutes, David replied. Send the location. Arthur recited a safe address. Not his home, not headquarters, one he kept for stormy days. He hung up. Maya licked a smudge of chocolate from her lip and asked, "Who is he?" "The man who builds doors no one sees," Arthur said, "and knows how to close them." "Eat." Maya nudged the plate. "Pancakes get cold." Arthur gave a thin smile, not of joy, but of resolve. He cut a piece. The sweetness hit his tongue like a needle, jolting him into the present. Rising, he left a few bills under the ashtray, nodded to the server. Outside, night wind slipped under his collar, carrying the scent of old rain. Arthur held the door for Maya, his hand unconsciously shielding her head as they crossed the curb. In his mind, a map lit up. Servers, tokens, bylaws, clauses, people. What to shut down? What to open? Who had to go? Tomorrow, when Manhattan woke, they would see a man thought to be a shadow standing tall again. Maya tugged his sleeve. "You'll really fire them, won't you?" "I'll do what needs to be done," Arthur said, each word nailed into the wood. They returned to the car. The city slid past like a film on fast-forward. Arthur turned the radio low. Jazz retreated, leaving purposeful silence. "Tomorrow," he said, eyes fixed ahead, "will be different." Maya leaned back, hugging her backpack. Outside, streetlights stretched into long threads leading toward the future, where a man would walk into a glass boardroom with eyes awake, and a child would step through the doorway of a new life. Elsewhere in the city, David Chun snapped shut an aluminum case, checking every cable, every drive. The ghost in the machine waited for orders. The off-the-books penthouse lit up section by section, warm like a hearth in the sky. Manhattan lay dark below, its scattered lights stitching a few seams into the night. Arthur swiped his card. The door sealed softly. He made a short, decisive call. Tonight, he would use only those he trusted. Harlan arrived 15 minutes later, his wool coat still carrying the wind. Chicken soup, bread, 1 apple. He set the paper bag down, took out an amber starfish lamp, and lit a corner of the sofa. Maya cradled her hot chocolate. Her eyelids grew heavy. "You're safe here," Arthur said. She nodded, hand still clutching her backpack strap like it was the last thread to Josephine. The office door closed. David Chun entered, raincoat rustling, setting an aluminum case on the oak desk. His eyes shone with the alertness of a man used to sleepless nights. "How long?" 9 a.m., Arthur replied. "They want me to sign then. Then we'll make morning come sooner." David opened the case. Packet analyzers, an air-gap drive, cables thin as needles, a laptop taped to hide its logo. The screen lit. Lines of code scrolled. David didn't storm the front gate. He slipped through a spine he had once built, a backup server, an old token tied to the monitoring system, something no one dared remove for fear of breaking it. From there, he pulled access logs. Who entered what, when, from which IP? Digital footprints appeared one by one. Here, he enlarged the record. 10:42 p.m. Read opened the M&A merger strategy vault. Downloaded draft _consolidation _agreement V27.pdf and set an order escrow.pdf. He spoke slowly, so the meaning stuck. A side letter, paper not attached to the main contract, passed hand to hand so no record remains. That's the knife. It rewrites escrow rules and the moment ownership shifts. Arthur nodded, jaw tightening. So signing the main deal is putting the rope around my own neck, hidden in that side letter. Exactly, David said. And that rope tightens around you. Another window came up, a money flow map drawn in thin arrows. From Japanese investors, the trail looped clean through Delaware, Cayman, ending in a fund bearing the fingerprints of an old rival Arthur had broken 4 years before. Besides a short note, funding reversed by a competitor. David pulled more text. Buried clauses transferring Arthur's entire personal IP portfolio to the new entity at the moment of signing. Liquidity thresholds redefined to trigger debt traps. Disputes forced into a friendly arbitration court. They don't just want the company, David said. They want your name erased from the industry. He launched a decoder, feeding it a hidden file from Evelyn's personal cloud. Password guessed from HR patterns. On the third try, it opened. A crystalline sound filled the speakers. Champagne glasses clinking, laughter trailing. Julian, the sentimental old man. Tomorrow's signature, and it's over. Maldives. Evelyn, I cleared the path. You know I did. David pinned the clip next to the log and the boardroom IP. The chain closed with a soft click. Arthur fell silent. He opened a wall cabinet, drew out a slim safe. In his hands lay a gray-bound file, thin yet heavy. 2011 JT. He sat on the desk. Back then, I thought he was wrong once, Arthur said, eyes on the cover. I kept it, called it loyalty. Turns out it was an interest-free debt. Tonight, it's a weapon. David kept building the film. Company calendars, Evelyn's auto-replies configured to act on behalf of CEO on critical dates, a timeline of who clicked what when. He highlighted segments where approval rights had been delegated through Evelyn's account. You handed her the keys, David said. Now you take them back. Out in the living room, Harlan placed soup and bread before Maya. She ate quickly, eyes fixed on the office door, the border between a child's world and an adult battlefield. Is he done yet? Almost, Harlan said, his voice carrying winter's past. David bundled the evidence. Master contract, side letter, money map, system logs, audio, internal notes. He hashed each file, signed digitally, and stored originals on the air-gap drive. Chain of custody, he muttered. By the time this hits the FBI, it'll be sterile as an operating room. Arthur drafted a new email address to FBI New York and an independent counsel, someone who had once stood with him in headwinds. He didn't send it yet. 1 hour before the meeting, he said, when everything's in place, the curtain falls. David set a countdown. The evidence bundle is locked with timed release, digital signature, and 2-layer authentication. Simultaneously, Arthur signed an internal CEO order freezing all access changes until further notice. Shut it from above, he said. Let those who locked it inside feel the air thin out. David opened the recovery folder. A stray proxy note popped up. Julian is collecting sloppy voting delegations from a few members. They meant to bold it from within with proxy votes. David smirked. We'll pry it open from the floor. Dawn dulled the sky outside. On the street, an early garbage truck rattled metal. Maya hugged the starfish lamp, peeking in. Are you done? Her question was as fragile as a thread. Almost, Arthur answered, surprised at how gentle his voice had become. The screen flashed ready. The evidence sealed, countdown ticking, freeze order active. David closed the laptop and pulled the case close. Time to let them step on stage, he said. Then we dropped the curtain. Arthur rose, fastening his jacket. In the black glass reflection stood a man who had regained his weight. He slid the 2011 JT file into a leather briefcase and zipped it shut. This doesn't go by email, he said. This one is personal. Crossing the living room, he paused at Maya. Thank you, he said. She nodded, her dark eyes like drops of ink spreading in water. Harlan's hand rested on her shoulder. The starfish lamp blinked off as daylight crept through the glass. Arthur looked at the waking city. Last night, he told David, they prepared for an execution. He turned, his gaze forged steel. This morning, we prepare for a resurrection. They left the penthouse. The door sealed behind them, locking the night outside. The sky lightened. Somewhere, a mailbox waited to receive a bundle of evidence that would redirect the course of the day. And deep within the network, the ghost in the machine stirred, awaiting orders. The glass boardroom on the top floor gleamed cold as an operating theater. Morning light spilled across the walnut table, the carafes of water, the dark screen still blank. Beyond the windows, Manhattan stirred awake, the Hudson catching streaks of silver. Julian Thorne entered first. Charcoal suit, sharp-edged, a smile already tailored to the outcome. Evelyn Reed followed, pencil skirt black, blonde hair pinned low. She laid her Mont Blanc pinned neatly across the embossed deal folder. The investors' lawyers unpacked their briefcases, uncapped highlighters, sticky flags sprouting like little banners. The door opened. Arthur arrived half a minute late. He walked slowly, shoulders heavy, tie loosened a notch. Without looking at anyone, he pulled out a chair, sat, and laced his hands. The portrait of a defeated man, placed exactly where they wanted it. Just sign here, Arthur. Evelyn slid the folder across, her voice soft. The pen rolled once, stopping at his finger. Arthur lifted it. Held. Did not sign. He set it down, almost weightless. Silence slashed through the room. Highlighters froze midair. Evelyn's smile flickered, stuttering like failing neon. Arthur raised his head. The light washed through his eyes, stripping away fatigue, leaving them cold and clear. Before I sign my own obituary, he said, voice calm, I have a question. He turned to Julian. Do you remember the 2011 transaction? The one that could have earned you 20 years without windows. The blood drained from Julian's face. Arthur, don't. The big screen came alive. No logo, no tagline. Enlarged emails, sender, recipient, subject, timestamps, IP addresses. One tap more. Flowcharts of money. Thin arrows looping from Japanese investor clean through Delaware. Cayman, landing in a fund bearing the fingerprints of a rival Sterling had once crushed. A short note. Funding reversed by competitor. One final tap. Audio flooded the room. Champagne glasses clinking, laughter trailing. Julian, the sentimental old man. Tomorrow's signature, and it's over. Maldives. Evelyn, I've cleared the path. You know I have. Evelyn collapsed in her chair. Julian slammed the table. What have you done, Arthur? Me? Arthur rose, sliding his chair back half a step. I did what I've always done. Protected my company. He laid a thin, worn file on the edge of the table before Julian, a small label, 2011, insider trading. That day, I thought you'd aired once. I kept it, called it loyalty. Turns out, I was just paying interest on a debt with no end. He didn't let Julian touch it. Turning to the investor's lawyers, Arthur said, this deal is over. You are about to shake hands with people facing fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy. You may make your calls now, or you may stay and see why you almost signed a dirty pact. One bespectacled lawyer forced composure. Mr. Sterling, these are unsubstantiated allegations. The door opened again. 3 dark suits stepped in, badges flashing steel. No introduction. The room instantly knew 3 letters. FBI. One agent inclined his head toward Arthur. Confirmation that the evidence bundle had arrived an hour earlier. Elsewhere, David Chun watched his countdown hit midnight and press send on the backup. Julian stumbled back, nearly against the glass. Outside was sky. Inside, his words shattered into fragments. Lawyers, damages, defamation, misunderstandings, none assembled into a shield. Evelyn bowed her head. Mascara streaked in 2 black rivers. Roads too far gone to retrace. The cuffs snapped short and dry. Arthur did not lift his chin in triumph. He stood still, letting the room finish the work. Emails frozen like stone, money flows speaking for themselves, laughter nailed to the speakers. Board members sat in silence. The oldest removed his glasses, wiping them. His hands trembled, whether from age or from what he had just witnessed, no one knew. Evelyn was led past Arthur. She searched his eyes for a crack of clemency. He did not look. No hatred, just nothing left to see. Julian roared a last line. Without me, this empire was built by me and decent people. Arthur cut in, voice low, deliberate. And from today, it stands on its own feet. The door closed. Pressure normalized. Arthur shut the screen. Natural light filled the glass walls. He turned to the board. Cancel the deal with Isaiah. If they return under their true name and fair conditions, we'll talk. From now on, freeze all access changes. Begin an independent audit. David Chun will temporarily oversee information security, reporting directly to me. One member opened his mouth, then shut it. Arthur nodded as if he had already heard. After this meeting, I'll see each of you individually. For now, activate whistleblower protections, review the last 90 days of approvals, and rebuild a clean timeline. Today, this company cleans its mirror. Chairs scraped in, papers gathered. The investors' lawyers packed their cases, faces hollow like travelers who had turned into a legal dead end. When the room emptied, Arthur stood alone before the largest glass wall. Manhattan spread wet and glistening. In its reflection, he saw himself. Not the ghost of last night, but a man with weight again. Not victory's grin. Only the quiet after a tumor is cut away. The door cracked. A secretary asked softly, "Do you need anything else, sir?" "Clear my afternoon," Arthur said. "And contact HR. Reopen the file of a woman named Josephine." "Josephine, sir? She deserves an apology. And a thank you." Arthur lifted a slim remaining file. Brief headings: transparency, employee protection, scholarships. At the threshold, he glanced back once. The glass room once meant to bury him now reflected something else. An architect who had defused the charge and steadied the building. He stepped out, footsteps firm, even. The city ahead no longer served as a backdrop for an execution. It was the runway for a resurrection just taking flight. A few weeks later, a windless afternoon, in the high-floor office, the stock ticker glittered at the corner of his eye, but Arthur turned his back on it. Before him lay a large-format blueprint, blue lines for a two-story building, flat roof, open courtyard. In the corner of the drawing, one phrase, Josephine's promise. On the sketch were a small intake office marked legal aid, a scholarships corner, a computer library, a counseling room, a children's play space. With his 2B pencil, Arthur lightly added a canopy to shield people in line from the rain. The door eased open. David Chin entered, coffee in hand. "The old partners called again," he said, this time under their real name, clean terms. Transparent, no side letter. Arthur nodded. "Good. But that's not the important part today." He pulled open a drawer, drew out a thick envelope. Papers establishing a foundation, his personal seed donation, enough to carry the building through its first year without asking anyone for a cent. On top, bold letters named the recipient, the Bronx. That afternoon, Arthur stopped by HR. On the screen, Josephine's file reopened. He signed a short statement. Restore honor. Back pay. Official letter of apology to family. Beside it, he placed a card. "You kept the company cleaner than we did. Thank you." Harlan would deliver flowers to her grave on his behalf. The next day, an internal boardroom. Arthur spoke little, listened more. Transparency programs, whistleblower protection, and management training titled No Shortcuts appeared on screen. David summarized the new security infrastructure, plain, layered, no frills. Department heads scribbled notes, nodded. No applause. Only pens touching paper, steady and firm. Late afternoon, Maya appeared in the doorway, wearing a new uniform, a white shirt, a striped blue tie. She set a paint swatch on his desk. "I picked warm white for the lobby. Bright, but not harsh." Arthur smiled. Approved, little architect. They drove down to the Bronx as the sun leaned west. The empty lot sat by the elevated train, wind carrying the tang of metal and pretzels from a street cart. Stakes dotted the dirt, red tape flapping. Maya walked through dust, shoes catching a smear of yellow grit. She tapped her toe against a fresh white line, as if testing the step of a future stair. "Dad, are you still angry at them?" she asked, eyes following a flock of birds overhead. Arthur knelt to her height, hands resting on his knees like anchoring a new plan. "Anger is like a dark room, Maya. You can't build anything in it." He met her gaze. "They took my past, but I won't let them take our future." He opened the trunk, took out a small hard hat labeled MY, architect. She tried on, laughed. The strap hung loose by a notch. Arthur adjusted it, pressed the crown lightly. Perfect now. A group of architecture students arrived, carrying steel rulers, chalk lines, and roll drawings with crumpled edges. Harlan set a jug of water on a folding table. David hammered stakes, pulling the cord taut, squinting against the light. The rhythm of hammers joined the rolling train above, a metronome for beginnings. Arthur stepped back, surveying lines, stakes, people. He exhaled a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. It carried dust, new wood, and something else, the scent of beginning. His phone buzzed. Email from former partner. Subject, a clean start. He replied in 2 lines, transparency. No side letters. Everything on paper. Then put away. Deals could wait. The rain shelter for opening day could not. Maya tugged his sleeve. "Where will you write Grandma's name?" Arthur led her to the brick wall plan for the lobby. pointing at the space between 2 blocks. Here, Josephine's promise will be the name of the building. And beneath it, one sentence. To keep clean is to keep honor. The sun swept a golden strip across their faces. Arthur narrowed his eyes, as if already seeing through future bricks the people who would walk inside. A worker fired unjustly, a mother seeking legal advice, a boy wanting to learn code. He saw them leaving with a paper in hand, spines straighter. "Come, architect," he said, handing Maya a brush. "Draw the first line." She bent down, traced a thin stroke across a wooden stake, the border of a window. Above, a train rattled long and loud. Wind whipped the red tape. At the city's edge, a building not yet real took shape in the air. A man who once had everything lost nearly all, then learned to choose what mattered. A girl who saved him from the dark with one simple sentence. They stood side by side, not just CEO and orphan, but family, the architects of tomorrow. And as the first paint dried, so too did the promise. Justice is not loud. True strength is knowing how to begin again and to keep honor clean with disciplined kindness. If this story touched you, please like, share, and subscribe to Toch Story to hear more tales that inspire.